Today we're going to do a beginner crash course in watercolor, and we're going to use as a reference one of the most recognizable landscapes in the world, the White Cliffs of Dover. By the end of this video, not only will you understand what to do, but you'll also understand why watercolor behaves the way it does. So grab your brushes, let's get started. Before we even touch paint, we need to talk about composition. But beginners often make one big mistake. They try to paint everything they see. That's why we simplify. To help simplify my approach in painting, I like to break it down into different sections, kind of like a puzzle. So in this painting, I broke it down with the sky, the second section of the cliffs, and then finally the foreground or the reflection. That chalk gives them their bright white color, which is why they stand out so dramatically against the sea. And for watercolor artists, that's one thing to be aware of. We must protect the white of the page because rarely white paint can give you the same brilliance as the untouched paper. If your sketch takes more than 2 to 3 minutes, you're probably overworking it. When sketching for watercolor, less is more. You're not drawing a finished drawing. You're simply creating a roadmap for the paint. Then I lightly sketch the reflection line in the water and finally the shoreline where the sand meets the water. That's all we need. Notice that I'm not drawing all the details of the reference photo. I'm starting with the larger shapes first. Now we move into the first watercolor wash. This is the sky. Now the sky is about light and atmosphere. In watercolor, we work light to dark. You can always go darker later, but you cannot easily go lighter. So I begin with the sky. Using a large soft brush, I mix a very diluted blue, about 90% water compared to 10% pigment. Then I lightly wash the sky area. Notice I paint around the cliff edges. This preserves the bright white cliffs. If you tilt your paper slightly, the paint will naturally flow downwards and create beautiful soft gradients. Now, while the sky is still slightly damp, I like to drop in a few darker blues and some Payne's gray to create cloud shapes. But I keep them really loose. While the page is still wet, you can lift out the whites of the clouds or just paint around them. I also like to add the shadows, these light grays, to the underneath side of the clouds. I try not to have too many sharp edges to the clouds, but a few can help create some variety. Watercolor clouds work best when you suggest them rather than putting in too many defined shapes. Remember, clouds work best when you're using the wet on wet technique. Now let's paint the cliffs themselves. Now in the reference photo, they look white, but remember, there is subtle color even in the cliffs. In reality, nothing in nature is pure white. So I mix a very light gray using blue and just a bit of burnt sienna. Then I gently paint shadow areas on the cliff. We're not painting the details at this time. We're just focusing on the shadows or the darker shapes of the cliffs. Notice that I leave a lot of the white paper untouched with the cliffs. With watercolor, it's easier to go darker and oftentimes harder to go lighter back on your page. This creates the illusion of a bright sunlight hitting the chalk surface. To have your white or your lights show up better in your painting, you'll need to have some contrast to compare them to. That contrast is going to come in the detail portion of the painting. I like to add vertical strokes to suggest the cliff texture. These cliffs are constantly eroding from wind and sea, so those long vertical marks mimic the natural structure of the rock face. Watercolor is amazing because sometimes the best effects happen when you let the paint do the work. As the artist, you're often simply creating the situation for the magic to happen on your paper. And knowing how to create magical situations is really the fun part of watercolor. Now we move on to one of the most fun parts of the painting, but honestly, it's probably the most difficult part. It's the reflection in the water. Notice the strokes are mostly vertical. That's important. Horizontal strokes oftentimes will break the reflection illusion. I also want to soften the bottom edge with a damp brush. This creates a look of rippling water. Then finally, I add in a few dark accents near the shoreline. This helps anchor the reflection and adds depth. This is creating the underpainting reflection, and the detail will come later on top of this reflection. Because this is lighter in color, the details will be able to cover up and create the shoreline. Now we enter in the final stage. This is where we add contrast and depth. Watercolor paintings often look flat until the final few dark accents. But what I like to do is mix darker neutral gray. And then I add in the small cliff shadow lines, a few dark rock textures, and the subtle shoreline details. But here's an important beginner tip. When you think you're done, go ahead and set your painting up across the room from you. This will allow you to see your painting from a different perspective, distance. By creating physical distance between you and your painting, it will allow your eye to see the big picture. Often you'll be able to see where you need to push your darks when you're looking at your picture from a distance. And remember, with watercolor and with painting in general, if you want your whites to stand out, make sure there's darks next to them or close by so they'll stand out together. One more important watercolor tip. Remember, loose paintings often look more realistic than tight ones. And boom, here it is! The final painting with the crash course about the White Cliffs of Dover. I hope you enjoyed. Join me each week and remember to pick up your paintbrushes and enjoy painting. See you next week.